table for BYU right now.
A college football playoff at-large berth for BYU.
But that possibility is there.
Interesting. The pressure's on because
What's the next big game? I said the next one.
You've got the Big 12 championship game. They believe that BYU belongs there.
Well, the next one happens to be Utah. And BYU entered their second and final bye week this season as one of 8 undefeated teams in the country. Well, now, after just a bonkers weekend in college football, BYU enters this week as one of only 5 remaining unbeatens and the last perfect team in the Big 12. So, Jarom, let's break it down. How did the results from this past weekend ultimately impact BYU's future Big 12 championship game appearance potential and college football playoff hopes?
Let's go over the upsets. So, Iowa State loses to Texas Tech, who scores late. Kansas State loses to Houston. How about A&M losing? Also Clemson. Those affect BYU in the college football playoff rankings, right? They were behind in the AP poll, but they'll now definitely be behind, you would think, with 2 losses each, behind BYU in the college football playoff poll. So this is great because BYU controls its own destiny. Literally doesn't need a loss from this team or whatever. You went out in the regular season. You are in the Big 12 title game. You are undefeated, and therefore you will be an at-large with a loss should that happen in the Big 12 title game.
Almost a lock in the Big 12 title game, even if they lose one of the final 4.
I would think they're 100% locked to get to the playoff if they're undefeated. Like, it's going to happen. We saw that even in the 14 playoff with TCU a couple of years ago. They were undefeated, lost the championship game to Kansas State. Yep. They got in the playoff. They won the semifinal. They went to the national championship game. So win out equals Big 12 title game and playoff. Awesome. BYU's not immune to an upset or a loss, though. Let us not think that we are any different than Iowa State or Kansas State. A loss in this league can happen. In fact, half the conference games have been decided by 1 score. Isn't that unbelievable?
It's the most in FBS of any conference.
BYU's not immune. You've got to bring it every game, or else all those crazy, stupid, tie-breaking scenarios come into play. You don't want that to happen.
BYU's been involved in 2 one-score games that were dramatic at the end.
Yep.
Baylor and Oklahoma State.
2-0 in those. Awesome. Big game with Colorado at Texas Tech this week, by the way. Go Red Raiders. Get a second loss for Colorado. That would be nice, because then you just have Iowa State and BYU with 0 and 1 losses, respectively. It doesn't matter right now that BYU is 28th in FPI from ESPN or the 61st toughest schedule in America, remaining SOS 47th. You win, you are in the Big 12 title game and subsequent playoff. I love that BYU controls its destiny.
I had a bunch of people say, how did it happen? How does Iowa State lose at home to Texas Tech? How does Kansas State go on the road and lose at Houston? Weather was a major factor in both of those games, which literally muddied those games up and delayed the Kansas State-Houston game significantly, almost 3 hours.
Good bye-week timing with the weather.
Yes. Like BYU avoided the upsets and the bad weather, certainly in the Midwest. So that was a factor. But, again, Houston and Texas Tech are sneaky teams. Houston, specifically at home, has been a bear.
They beat Utah.
Yes. Now they've
got a
taken
big win
care
over
of
Kansas State. How about that?
They have not been a bear on the road, so that bodes well for BYU.
Regular season finale.
Looked like a very bad team on the road.
Yep.
So they come to Provo on November 30th. Kansas State's a head-scratcher for me. I mean, they missed some field goals. Their special teams was anything but special on Saturday, and that's kind of their mantra. We win special teams.
They got behind, and they had to pass the ball a little bit, and that's not their thing. They don't chug it.
See the BYU game.
Yep.
They started to feel that pressure and felt pressed, and they started turning the ball over and throwing interceptions. Yeah, that's how people were like, how did BYU destroy Kansas State? That formula.
Takeaways, special teams turnover.
Yes. Yes.
It seemed pretty obvious.
They did what Kansas State has done historically to so many teams. So I know it's crazy how it happened, but the fact that it happened gives BYU a significant advantage in one getting to the Big 12 championship game. What's crazy is if Colorado wins out and BYU, even if BYU wins 3 of the final 4, it's going to be most likely a BYU-Colorado Big 12 championship
How fun
game.
would that be?
Can you imagine the media hype around that? With Deion Sanders,
Jacob
Coach
Robinson
Prime?
lining up with Travis Hunter.
Come on.
Come on.
I know some BYU fans that want no part of that, but I think it would be fantastic for the conference.
I think that's an interesting matchup. If BYU lined up with Iowa State, it feels like similar teams rely on defense, good run games. I think BYU's offense is more explosive. Look at the chance to win out percentage differences, by the way. All of a sudden, BYU's goes down 1.9%. College Football Network goes down. Kelly Ford goes down, which is interesting. It's like, what changed? That Houston got better or something last week?
Probably. And Arizona State looks better.
Arizona State 6-2. That is the second toughest game left at Utah. I know the record's 4-4, but it's Utah, and BYU hasn't won up there since 2006. You got to take care of business Saturday.
BYU might be a road underdog at Arizona State.
I would understand that, and I would love it because give this team reasons to be ticked off.
Yes.
And they will deliver.
Well, you look at the 5 remaining unbeaten teams. Number 1 Oregon deserves to be number 1 Oregon.
100%.
They have earned it. They have beaten Ohio State and have destroyed the majority of their competition and beat a really good Boise State.
They've entered the Big Ten and done what Utah thought they were going to do in the Big 12. Dominate.
Yes.
Yeah.
They literally are doing it rather than just saying it and then not doing it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they're doing it.
All about that action, boss.
Number 4, Miami. That one's a head-scratcher for me.
They have star power. They have the Heisman Trophy leader probably.
Yes, the front runner and Cam Ward.
Travis Hunter right there, too.
They have been granted some favorable rulings by officiating crews. Yes. Okay. Then, number 8, Indiana. Haven't played anybody, but they've destroyed their competition.
Yeah.
They've absolutely destroyed the competition.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're right there with BYU. And then Army. Army is the other fun.
Army's exciting.
Independent.
Who doesn't like
their American Athletic Conference now? But
who doesn't like when the military teams do well? Love it. It's American. Come on.
Those are the 5 unbeatens. If BYU can survive Utah, will any of the other unbeatens go down this week? I don't know. Probably not. Miami's at Georgia Tech. That one feels like maybe the most likely upset. But Indiana still has to play Ohio State. So there are some big games on the forefront for even the 5 unbeatens.
Yeah.
It's. I know people joke about 1984.
I'm wearing a shirt. I'm not joking.
But the way that things have shaken out thus far, it feels like a very special, unique season for BYU.
2/3 of the way done. Gotta get through this last third right successfully. Certainly, it could end abruptly. The chance for the Big 12 title wouldn't end abruptly, but if you are undefeated in the regular season, that means you're good to go on.
Yes.
There are 3 boxes that you want to check this season for me. 1 is beat Utah. 2 is make the Big 12 title game. 3 is the college football playoff. You now begin the pursuit of that a lot heavier, a lot
Compare
more
that to the 3 boxes you wanted BYU to check before the season.
It was make a bowl game, compete, and then hold the best firesides in the country. I'm just kidding. It's exciting what BYU is doing right now. But honestly, I'm not even thinking about Kansas next week. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Utah.
100%.
There's some scar tissue there. Like we'll dive into all this a little more.
100%.
In fact,
can I add one thing?
Please.
Here's what I don't like about what happened last weekend. The perception of the Big 12 Conference took a significant hit.
You were hoping Iowa State would win out as well.
Remain unbeaten.
Kansas State would stay with 1 loss.
That's the best chance that the Big 12 were going to get 2 teams into the college football playoff. Yeah. Now the voices are saying, see, it's a 1-bid league. It's a 1-bid league unless BYU is 12-0 going into the Big 12 title game and they lose.
Yes.
That feels like the only, and I agree, likely scenario where the Big 12 gets 2 teams in is if there is an undefeated BYU and somehow the Cougars lost in the Big 12 championship game. Then BYU probably still gets into the playoff as a double-digit seed.
Is there any way, I was just thinking about this, and again, getting way out in front of our skis here on this thought. If BYU made the playoff, there's not really a way where BYU would be the 5 seed and host.
Or 5 through 8?
Well, I don't think they'd be 6, 7, or 8. Like, if they're either undefeated, 4 seed, 3 seed type with a bye, or they're like 11 as an at-large or something. It doesn't feel like there's a middle ground. Unless Boise State was somehow perceived to be better than the Big 12 conference champ, then the Big 12 conference champ would be a 5 seed. But if BYU wins the Big 12,
it's an auto. It's an auto. Unless Boise State comes up, like BYU could be the 11th team in the college football playoff.
Now they're playing a road game.
But if they win the Big 12, they're automatically vaulted to the number 4 spot.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. There's no way that BYU could host one of those first.
Well, not necessarily. And if they're 12-0 and some of these other unbeatens lose, and they get up to like number 3 or 4 in the college football playoff rankings and then lost the Big 12 title game,
then
maybe they could fall to like a 7 or an 8 and still host a first-round game.
I would actually love that scenario almost more than winning the Big 12 and getting the bye. Just because it'd be fun to play a playoff game in Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
Host a college football
Yes,
playoff
host
game
one. That'd be fun.
on December 20th.
And again, I'm getting ahead of myself here. BYU's got to win 4 more games to do that. But like, just that thought is pretty fun.
Win 3 of the next 4.
Winning a Big 12 title would be the best. But it'd be fun to host.
I know.
Again, I'm getting too excited. BYU's got to beat Utah first. None of this matters if they don't. Win at least 3 of the next.
Great for BYU's Big 12 championship odds this past weekend. Not so great for the conference in trying to get more than one team in the college football.
I care probably less about that than you. I'm just concerned about Brigham at this point. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Number one
Well, I mean,
concern.
like, if we only get one in and it's BYU, well,
yes,
okay.
but what stinks is if the Big 12 only gets one in because the conference is perceived as weak and BYU is left on the outside looking in, then that stinks. That's where my concern lies.
Yeah. Well, just win out and you'll be fine. It's that easy.
Okay.
Now that it's game week for Brigham Young University and the University of Utah, both founded by Brigham Young himself, 1850 and 1875, respectively. How are you feeling about Saturday's game with the Utes?
It hasn't changed very much over the past 3 or 4 weeks, which is I know exactly what this game is. It is a massive test for BYU on the road. Hornets' Nest. It is Utah's Super Bowl this season. If they and their fan base want to salvage the season, it starts and ends with beating BYU and ruining the Cougars' perfect season. I expect them to be motivated beyond belief. They've had 2 weeks to prepare just like BYU. There will be some juice early in this game. For me, Jarom, it's always been about can you survive the emotions of the first quarter and a half of this game and then just get into playing football. If you can get through the first 20 minutes of the game without absolute catastrophe and letting the emotions take over and terminal turnovers like we have seen in recent games in this rivalry.
I don't want to talk about
just saying
2015 or 20 whatever year, you name it.
Yes. Survive the first 20 minutes and the emotions that are involved, and then it's just a football game. Just make some plays, and then things settle in, and you're just playing football from there on out. If BYU can do that, I think they have a fantastic chance to win the game. Just avoid a massive turnover shift early in the game. This is what I'm thinking about the past 4 weeks. So you say how I'm feeling about it? My mind is just thinking, just avoid the catastrophe in the first 20 minutes. And then I think BYU is in great shape to potentially win that game.
The last 4 weeks have changed completely how I feel about this game because Utah always makes me a little nervous given the 9-game losing streak. You know, BYU's got a 1-game win streak. By the way, on Saturday, it will have been over 1,800 days since Utah beat BYU in football. They haven't played that much, but it's a fun stat. Utah's offense stinks right now. Are they going to score enough points? Can the BYU defense shut them down like other teams have? They haven't scored 24-plus in a Power 4 game this year. They're bottom 30 in points per game, giveaways, third down conversions. They don't know what quarterback they're going to play between Isaac Wilson and Brandon Rose. Can BYU limit Utah to so few points that the offense only needs to score like 3 touchdowns? The Utah defense is good, however.
That's why you have to avoid a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, that matchup of BYU's offense versus Utah's defense is going to be very interesting. Can BYU continue to take it away like they have been? Because 18 turnovers gained is tied 6th in the nation. 14 picks is 3rd. BYU's defense is really good, outscoring opponents 69-10 off turnovers. Can that be the factor that wins you the game? I do believe, and I got a lot of response from everyone last week, that if BYU doesn't turn it over at all, that they win convincingly. Like if BYU takes care of the ball, I think if it's a straight-up fight, BYU's offense is going to out-offense Utah by quite a bit. Utah's offense has showed that it's not there yet. It's Utah. It's emotional. It's different. Rice Eccles, I think, is still going to be rocking despite a lot of narrative that people are selling their tickets and not into this. Utah has to win this game to make a bowl game. Hear me out. At Colorado next week.
Good luck.
Iowa State at home the next week.
Even tougher.
At UCF on a short week, Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
You saw what UCF did to Arizona, and Arizona beat Utah.
And UCF almost had Iowa State. I think that if Utah does not win this game, they don't make a bowl game. I think it's a very hard finish for the Utes, so they'll be up for this one.
There's desperation.
BYU's up for it, equal to or more, though. They got a special season going. You got to show up and win in Salt Lake. I am nervous, but super excited.
Another good thing about last weekend was BYU had an opportunity to watch Iowa State and Kansas State lose. when they were the clear favorites in those games. This is good. This helps BYU zero in and lock in even more emotionally, which is you have to go and earn this. Treat it like the Super Bowl, as Aaron Rodgers has been saying all year. This is Super Bowl number 9.
Yeah, I love that.
Treat it like the Super Bowl. That gets an added measure of zeroing in because of what happened last weekend. So I believe that BYU will be ultra-focused if they weren't before and be ready for this game emotionally.
There's zero excuse to lose this game for BYU. Zero. The way you're playing, the way they're playing, figure it out and win the game.
We saw a not-so-cryptic tweet from a notable Utah account last night that just posted a rose emoji, which would suggest that
they're going back to the Rose Bowl this
that they're starting their third-string quarterback, Brandon Rose.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
who hadn't thrown a pass at Utah until last week, 2 weeks ago.
I know Isaac Wilson's been banged up. He's been dealing with some injuries. Kyle Whittingham talked about that.
It's his birthday Saturday.
I know. Zach told me that.
You pointed that out to me, and I was like, oh, that's fun.
So many layers.
Happy
to
birthday,
this game.
except for the game.
And we love the Wilsons.
Yeah.
We just want BYU to win.
Just want BYU to win.
Saturday. That is for sure. Line opened up at BYU as a 5-point favorite, by the way. It's down to 4.
Well, let's go back to May when it was Utah by 17. Yeah.
At one point,
that's what it
Utah
actually
by
opened
17.
up as.
Yeah. Now it's BYU by 4.
Oh, how the turns table, Spencer.